Hey everyone, this is James Knight and you're watching behind the scenes of my Bonnie Clyde music video. Everything was shot in my new studio that my dad and I renovated and making a space for projects like this one. It took us over a month to convert it into a functional room with everything I needed. So I do have not only space for recording my vocals, but for video and photo shoots as well now. Lights were the most important thing for me to get quality shots, so I have a couple of spotlights and LED tube lights. I shoot everything in Sony Alpha in 4K, so we made this little ceiling mount for overhead shots, and I have a tripod for other ones. Little editing area with my Mac and external monitor as well. And yeah, a bunch of creativity and time invested and results you can see in the music video. So everything started in January. We were still finishing up the studio, but I got COVID and had to be quarantined. So after a couple of days when I started feeling better, I decided to start sketching the video ideas. Main thought behind the video was the same as when I wrote Bonnie and Clyde, and that is to make fun of everything that people said about me in the past couple of years. So it's more of a collection of the most bizarre rumors and gossip about me. Trust nothing in this song and trust nothing in this video. I had so much fun making it. I divided it into 7 scenes, all representing some kind of tittle-tattle I heard about me. So we're gonna go through behind the scenes of each one, as preparation for most of them was literal weeks of planning and coming up with solutions that were best suitable for when you're shooting your video alone. Newspaper scene. I think of this scene as an introduction to this world of shit talk about me. There's no symbolic behind it, the meaning is literal. I feel like I'm reading tabloids every time a new gossip appears. Therefore, I made 8 articles about my favorite things I've heard. They are all kind of depicted in the video as well. So the first step for me was to open up an Illustrator and make fake articles, come up with witty headlines and get everything ready for printing. I left some space for photos and kind of went with a couple of ideas I had in mind. But the next step was to take all the photos I needed. So the first one is me suing whole Earth's population one. I took some shots of flipping the bird and holding some blank papers. Then I proceeded to Photoshop legal summons onto the surface of it. Next up was me being all natural and not using any kind of retouching on my photos, not at all. It was a simple photo shoot on a white background, and I liquefied the hell out of my face just to appear as non-human as possible. Then some stories about my family purchasing villas and real estate, yada yada. I pictured that as a paparazzi shot from the yard of my newest villa. Of course, totally photoshopped. The next one was ongoing question about how is it possible that I earn money and only thing I do is write words. That I presented with me sitting on a chair. I photoshopped a face mask, more like under eye thing mask, on, and my butler, which is me, getting me my daily bubbles. Then one about my dad being so rich. I imagine me holding a bank statement with unbelievable amount of money on it and just a huge red stamp saying rich on it. So I took some photos with blank paper and then put in the statement digitally. Next one is James Knight Complex. Me signing my CD to one and only God. I simply photoshopped Sistine Chapel, God's hand holding my CD, and then some saints and angels around me as fans. Then we have Gucci branded everything, even my toilet paper of course. For this shot I used plain toilet paper and photoshopped a Gucci branding on it. It turned out to be my favorite photo from this shoot. And last set of 2 photos are me throwing tantrum, angrily getting carried away from some kind of, let's say, conference. I photoshopped myself as bodyguards and had to take a photo in a pose that would suit being carried away. And the last one was simple to create. I just put an overlay of blank papers over a photo of me being real mad about, well, who knows what. After all of that, I printed it out and stapled it together. I imagined this scene to be plain Weatherman green background and me rotating and simply reading the papers. As I am my own cameraman, it was a bit tricky to get that rotating effect, so what I did is simply put a piece of plexiglass below my feet and kind of moved smoothly in one direction. I smoothed out the background in post-processing and just added some flares and lights so it looks a bit better. On purpose, there is a discrepancy between audio and video in this part for a moment, and then it kind of catches up. I wanted it to represent how people say many things before thinking. We are all guilty of it, but in this particular case, I wanted it to kind of symbolize how often people say many things before actually thinking if it's true. Black studio scene. Segue into the black studio scene with paper ripping transition. I knew that I wanted the costume for this scene to be reminiscent of something you'd see on a badass gang member, but I wanted to make it kind of lame. Maybe not even by choice, but my budget. Just kidding. But yeah, look at me, I am in trouble in man. Sounds so opposite of what is actually presented in that particular moment on the screen. For this scene, I used the same technique for rotating as in the newspapers one. A simple piece of plexiglass I put below my feet to help me with friction between the ground and my shoes, and then I simply moved my feet and my body in one direction. Going into After Effects, I added a reflection and some nice light overlays. Most editing on this part I spent on the fire scene. I simply used a fire overlay and manually checked it and masked it to my hands, and I think it turned out pretty nicely. Planet scene. As you know by far, this song is all about me being egoistic. And what is more egoistic than thinking everything revolves around you? So I wanted to introduce a new theory about our Milky Way, which is that it is not heliocentric, but James Line-centric. And therefore every single planet and cosmic body revolves around me. That was the main point of this scene. I'm just kidding, of course, but as you can see, the moon and the Mars and even planet Earth, everything is revolving around me. This scene was very simple to shoot, a simple green screen behind me, and in the After Effects I put the background of galaxy, placed stars shining overlay, and found these amazing planet animations, and animated their position and scale, which gave this scene a bit of depth, and they seem like they are actually revolving around me. But yeah, that is actually a problem I have when shooting everything myself. Everything being static. So I try and find creative ways to make scenes appear more lively. Painting scene. First of all, I have to thank my beautiful cat for agreeing on starring in this masterpiece. She is the moment, she is the music video. But jokes aside, this is probably my favorite scene. I depicted myself painting my other self, let's say it that way. Painter me is a bit frustrated but knows what he's doing, while the model me wants to be painted as perfect as possible. Therefore, I argue that he needs to paint like a smaller nose or make me seem better than I actually am, etc. Symbolism behind this scene is simple. It is, of course, based on how other people view me, but I wanted to depict their opinion on how I see myself as well. Therefore, in my head, I am this beautiful royal creature with perfect face and a real tiger, and not just my shabby cat. I hand painted the floor I used in this scene. Those are actually 2 big plaster boards. I first shot all of the scenes with the model me, and then positioned the camera for the scene where you can see the both of us. Did that scene with the model me, and then, without moving the camera, I changed my costume and did the scene with the painter me, that scene first with the painter me. So, whew, a mouthful. In the After Effects, I simply remove the background and scale down the scene a bit so it feels like the room I'm standing in is kind of floating. For the scene where you can see the both versions of me, I simply masked one video and put it over another one. It's a real simple effect. What was not as simple was the actual scene of the painting at the end. For this, I shot the canvas empty and checked the surface and put the painting I made digitally on the surface. Adjusted the opacity and some blend modes a bit to get it as realistic as I could. Writing scene. I actually forgot to record setting up of this scene, but most of it was real life objects I put on a table. I wanted it to represent how easy people think being a lyricist is. You can see me typing with one hand while drinking rosé and papers flying around me while I'm comically hitting the keyboard in order to get the job done. While it comes natural to me, it is hours and hours of hard work daily and writing songs. But it is mostly seen as a hobby or something I do for fun by the others. But hey, I get the check at the end of the day, not them. Okay, on to how I made this scene. Recording was real easy for this one, simple green background, and everything else was already in the scene. So I only added the books on the shelves in the background and blurred silhouettes of plants in the foreground just to add some depth. I then animated some of the scenes with simple zoom effect, but separated zoom for background, zoom for myself and the foreground to get this parallax kind of realism. I recorded a couple of minutes of paper falling onto the green screen and added them to the scene as well. I even animated little flies around the light source on the table. Waving scene. I had so many ideas for this scene, but everything took so long that I had to cut it short. But premise behind it is that I won a global award for being the worst person ever. And I'm simply appreciating everyone who was included in the making of this persona I am today. But of course you can't really read that from the scene, unfortunately. But now you know. Effects-wise, this one took a bit longer than the rest of the scenes because of the amount of effects on it. So let's begin. We start off with me on a green screen, removing it. We get this black background, but I put blurred image of a building behind myself just to add some depth. Podium is a simple photo I put in as well. All of the flashing lights were put in as overlays so they act like camera flashes. And I recorded green screen footage of hands waving and cheering to put in the foreground so it seems like there is an audience. I was missing something in it, so I recorded myself with these masks on my head to represent my bodyguards around me, so I put that footage in the background as well. Then the camera position changes, and we see me walking away and rolling my eyes. I put some fireworks in the background to go off above the audience, which is a simple green screen footage of people cheering, but I blurred it out to get some kind of a depth effect. Theater scene. This is the last scene in the music video. Well, actually not like technically last, but there is no more new scenes after this one. What you see in this scene is me standing on a wooden floor in my studio, and behind me is actually a green screen curtain. In post-production, I edited the green screen to be red and then duplicated the masked layer of an empty scene with a curtain and a piece of floor to extend it to both sides. So it looks kind of continuous. But there is a big mistake I made in this scene. As you can see, in one part my hand gets cut off and I hate myself for it, but I noticed it way too late. So it is what it is now. But all in all, it is a rather simple scene and I repeated the same process for each angle. And there it is. That is a bit of behind the scenes on how I made a whole video. It took me over a month for it, even though I was quarantined and had some troubles with getting everything to arrive in time. But all in all, I am a big believer in being able to do anything if you put in the work, no matter how limited your equipment or your budget is. I hope you already watched the video. If not, what you're waiting for, like, go for it, just watch it. But I am really proud of it, and please don't take the song or the video too seriously. It is simply me poking fun at rumors. So thank you so much, and bye bye.